America! My name is Irami Osefrimpong, and we're here at the Black Athenians. I come to you every week at 4-ish at Broderick Flanagan's studio in Triangle Plaza in Athens, Georgia. And today we're going to talk about school boards. We're going to talk about Athens Clark County School Board in particular and some nonsense that's been going on in there. But I'm going to try to do it in a way that clarifies the struggle for everyone who has to deal with a school board, and a lot of people do. Because here's the deal: this fight is fought at the school board. This fight for Black liberation is fought at the school board because if you control Black minds, you control Black behinds. So we need to understand what's happening in the Athens Clark County School Board if you're serious about community uplift and liberation. So if you don't know, a few years ago, we had a new superintendent of the Clark County School District. His name was Damon Means. And he was brought in to deal with equity. The school board said plainly and clearly, you can go back to the minutes, and they didn't use the word equity, but they wanted to deal with the gaps between white kids in Clark County school districts who are doing fine and Black kids in Clark County school districts who are not doing fine. As of 2018, only 15% of Black kids ages 3rd grade to 5th grade were reading at grade level. Only 15%. White kids doing fine, Black kids reading at 15%. I just want to tell you right now what equity means. It so happens that I am a political philosopher, so I know these things. And I also know how it's important to articulate them well, because there's a guy named Hutchins at the University of Chicago, died 50 years ago, but he said pretty well that, look, there's a problem with these progressive movements because you got a lot of people marching in the streets for justice for the third world and justice for the Negro and justice for the poor. But if you ask them what justice means, they don't have any idea. Right? So that's the same thing with equity in Athens. So I'm going to tell you right now, and I think I have another philosopher with me, Matthew, and if I get anything wrong, he's going to fill it in. But I think I'm going to get this right because I happen to know what this is in a way that might be more profound than what's being articulated, right? So we're going to talk about 3 things real quickly: equality, equivalence, and equity. Equality means that everyone gets the same stuff. You get this good, you get that, everyone gets the same stuff, no big deal, right? Now, equivalence, that means you get the things you need. There's an equivalence of burdens and benefits. That means if I'm hungry and you're hungry, we both get the food we need to be full. That might not be equal. For example, if I didn't get lunch and you got lunch, for us to be equivalent in our burdens and benefits, I need to get more food than you, right? That's equivalence. That's equivalence, right? So equality means everybody gets the same stuff. Equivalence means that we have the same burdens and benefits, but we get different stuff. Equity is the unity of both of those, which suggests that you get what you need, equivalence, in a way that transforms and aims towards equality. In other words, I give you the food you need, the unequal amounts, because I didn't eat lunch and this person ate lunch. But then we have to talk about the structures of why aren't you getting lunch? Right? That's equity. It's not just equivalence. Equivalence is what you get with charity. Charity, if you're hungry, the person who's full feeds you. That's great. Equity feeds you, but then asks, all right, so what do we need to restructure so that you're not hungry anymore? All right? So a lot of people confuse equivalence with equity. All right? Equality, everyone gets the same stuff. Equivalence, everyone gets the same burdens and benefits, but different stuff. Equity is everyone gets the same burdens and benefits with an eye towards transforming the system towards equality. Right? So remember, equality, I get the same food that you get, although I'm like 3 times as hungry. Equity means I get 3 times as much food because I'm 3 times as hungry. Equivalence means I get 3 times as much food because I'm 3 times as hungry. And equity means I get 3 times as much food, but we also ask the question, what do we have to change so that you're not 3 times as hungry, right? And that's what means, although he might not know it and be able to articulate it in those words, that's what he was searching for. That's what he was striving for when he was striving for equity, right? Now, other people think of equity as equivalence. That's their problem. Now, you funky academicians know the truth. And if you want the long-form version of it, there's a book called The Phenomenology of Right by Alexander Kojev. It's like 400 pages. In the middle, it'll take 3 chapters to get through what I just told you in the last 2 minutes. So you're welcome. Matthew, is that did I miss?
Yeah. You nailed all the points. I would say though that a lot of people think you can just mesh together equivalency and equality together, and there won't be any sort of contradiction. But no, there will be a contradiction at first. But through the working of politics and persuasion, you can get rid of those excessive disagreements.
Right. You run into what's called a synthetic unity. Because they're not the same things, but they can be unified if you change the character of the political structure so that you'll actually have an equitable structure. Right.
Equivalence balance is balance. Equivalence equals balance.
Yeah, equivalence will get you like with charity, right? With charity, the person who's hungry gets more than the person who's full. The person who's full feeds the person who's hungry out of their largesse. But it doesn't actually go at like, why are you hungry? Like equivalence is like, all right, so we're both full now, yay! But we never ask like, why don't I get lunch and you get lunch? Because we want equality. We want the same stuff to do the same thing, but we don't have that. And equivalence won't get us that either. Equity will get us that. Equity will get us that. Equivalence will get us charity and confusing charity with a solution. I was hungry and they fed me. That means we're doing fine. No, you never ask why I'm hungry. And like what that means that you get food and I don't, and I always have to come to you to get food at your largesse. Yeah, exactly. That's like, why does one person get a job and I don't? And like that's that when we start asking like that, those are the questions of equity. Like why am I always hungry and they're always full? It's nice that they give me when I ask, but like, why are they always full and I'm always hungry? Like those are the questions that if you care about equity, you start asking. When I first did this show, I said, look, we're not getting any sort of justice in Athens until you go right at white supremacy. And that means the conservative side, which is those white guys in hoods. Now they're just contractors eating up all the contracts in hoods, not in the hood, but in hoods, white hoods. Who now they're just they're their grandsons, so they're just getting all the contracts and own all the land. But that also means their daughters, who are your real estate agents and your teachers, and a lot of white supremacy has been gendered, so it's done through white women. And if you're scared to kick white women in the teeth, metaphorically, not physically, you don't have to kick them in the teeth physically, but you do have to kick them in the teeth metaphorically. And if you kick them in the teeth metaphorically, they will cry and they will feel some sort of way. It's almost as if you kick them physically. They'll get all the same tears and indignation. But if you're not willing to do that, you're not really serious about justice work. And to which Athens said, Irami, what are you talking about? That's horrible. You can't go after women that way. They're women. Fast forward 3 years later, these white women just ran out the means on a rail because you never took the fight to them. You never took the fight. You didn't take me seriously when I said, like, this is the fight. And if you're not serious about articulating the fight and getting in the fight, these white women are going to screw up your kids' education and run means out. And what happens? These white women are screwing up black education and run means out. Because as much as they care about black youth, and they'll tell you, I care about all of my kids. They don't care about black youth as much as they care about keeping their other white lady friends. Right? They don't care about it that way. They don't care about black youth as much as they care about keeping their identity as good white women who try hard. Because if they have to choose between keeping their identity or keeping their friends or teaching black kids how to read, they're always going to choose, not always, but more times than you want to admit, they're going to choose keeping their identity as a good lady who tries hard or keeping their friends, right? And that's going to be the problem. And they'll say no, I really care about all the kids. I learned all of their names, even the ones with apostrophes. And I know, even the ones that are hard to pronounce. And I learn all their names. Yeah, that's not good enough because you're not teaching them how to read. And there are two jobs. Either you teach these black kids how to read, or you organize and articulate the conditions you need in order to teach these black kids how to read. And you don't want to take on that kind of risk of organizing for the conditions you need to teach black kids how to read. You will organize to keep your job, though. That's one thing that you, like, yeah, why these people will not, these white teachers will not take any sort of risk to get black kids how to read. But if you threaten their job, all of a sudden they'll get militant. They're militant. So right now their job is to comfort, is palliative care, pretty much for the black community. They keep these kids happy and disciplined and then move them out. And as long as everyone keeps moving, it's like the financial crisis. As long as everything keeps moving, everyone gets paid. Everyone who's white gets paid, and nobody really cares. Although at the end, it ends up with like a 23-year-old who can't read and is in jail.